Hey guys, another video today and welcome back to the channel. And today, but before we talk about today, let's talk about what's been going on. I haven't made a video in quite a while. It's been a couple of weeks, probably like 3 weeks. And, you know, I've just been chilling, going to the gym, hitting gym hard, working, just, you know, socializing with life. I haven't been playing games much recently. I'm not really sure what's up with that. Like, I just haven't been feeling like it. This is strange for me. It happens once in a while, but this time it's a bit longer than usual. Apart from that, I had a conference I went to for work on Monday. Came back on Thursday. That was pretty cool. Went to Wales. That was nice. But yeah, now I'm back in here and I'm ready to make some video. But this video is about a topic that I've actually been thinking about for a while when it comes to difficulty and the last things in Sunbreak that I think would be great for them to change. And also that, you know, Sunbreak has really improved on the difficulty compared to base wise. A lot of people, more people have enjoyed it, but there's still some people that still have some gripes. And what inspired me to make this video and actually revisit this topic that I've had on top of my mind for a while is watching Reworking and Restocking on a podcast, and they talked about difficulty. They talked about going forward how they would prefer some things to change. And Reworking actually had one really strong point that I agree with. I think the video was pretty good. I think they did miss some points on where difficulty really. Where the issue of difficulty really lies and what the team can do to go forward. And we're going to get into that because, you know, on this channel since day one, I've always been analytical. We've been hitting the topic hard. We've been going to the root. Generally, I like to think about this stuff a lot, not just come up with surface level answers to questions. And that's what we're going to hit today. So let's get into this. So there's a couple of things that when it comes to Rise, definitely base Rise, where people had problems with difficulty. You know, they'll say the monster's too slow, they don't hit it hard enough, we have too much HP, we have too much armor. Okay, maybe people didn't say that one too much. But, you know, too much movement, Endemic Life is strong, restocking items is strong, you know, the healing, movement in the air, Wirefall, the wire bugs, we do too much damage, and so on. That there was a lot of reasons. Now, Sunbreak did address quite a lot of them, I would say. You know, monsters are faster, they hit harder, definitely. These are the fastest monsters we've ever seen, and they hit harder. I think monsters, for overall, most of the monsters are perfect. Gosharag, Barroth even. Like, some of these monsters are great. Elder Dragons, a lot of the Elder Dragons are actually really perfect. Actually, I'm actually really impressed with what they've done with a lot of monsters in Sunbreak. And that's not the focus of the video, because I think all that stuff is fantastic. There's probably 3 things that I think people aren't understanding. I think these are the root of how Monster Hunter can go forward with difficulty and still keep the cool combat that Sunbreak has and Rise has brought us. Because one of my issues with when I've seen people talk online and talk, you know, on this topic is they look at difficulty, they see something easier and they say, hey, this is easier. Okay, why is this easier? Oh, they added this, you know, in this instance is the wire bug. Okay, next game we don't need the wire bug, and there. No, that to me is very low level thinking. No offense to anyone who thinks that way, but well, actually I can't say that. I mean, I guess offense because it is what it is. But there's a deeper root there. There's a deeper root there of why certain things may lead to certain things being easier, and even if those things that you think is making it easier, if it's actually the root of the problem. And in this case, no. So we're going to talk about the 3 things that I think is actually that needs to change in Monster Hunter to keep it interesting forever and even more difficult, more engaging. Now the second one, and the one that I actually think is more important, is the healing. I think healing in Rise is definitely way too strong. I mean, healing in World was already way too strong because you can move and heal, but, you know, it's more gradual because you don't have that initial burst of healing in World, at least. The issue with it in Rise is it actually does a couple things. Because you can heal so much, you can heal and then dodge and feel fine. You can feel like, okay, cool, I'm in a good spot. I got that little burst of heal, I can heal, I'm good, I'm fine. But by doing that, it just kind of incentivizes people to just not, well, it doesn't incentivize, it doesn't really lead to too much danger when you get hit about, because people are getting hit about a lot. I'm seeing them, unless you're like a really good speedrunner, you've been practicing for a long time, people are getting hit a lot. And in these hits, being able to recover from these hits and then heal on top of it from these hits quite easily makes it a bit difficult for the monsters sometimes to kill you. That's why they lead to monsters doing a lot of damage in these event quests and also in the late quests, which is good. Monsters should do more damage, but at the same time, I think that we should also reduce the healing of those potions. I think potions are too strong. I think dodging during a potion maybe could be even removed. I don't know. Like I think some way to balance that, even one of the two needs to happen, because healing is ridiculous. In fact, it trivializes some of the skills. For example, the skill fast eating is okay, but it's not as good as it was in World, or I mean in the old gen it was never really used. I used it sometimes, but it wasn't really used. In World it was used for wide range sword shield healing build. In Rise, I would never pretty much run it because healing is already so fast. There's not many situations where you need it. Like what they did to evade and stamina, where they made it so the base isn't as good and you might need some skills in it to make it, you know, usable or better. I think similar thing has to happen here, where the healing needs to be slower, and if people really want to heal fast, then they need to just slot in fast eating. Like, you get so many skills these days anyway, force them to slot it in, don't just give it to them. I think this one's super important as well. Now there's a couple of extra things that I think that need to be cleaned up going forward. Now one of them is skills. I mean, I've talked about skills so much. Skills encounters, like we'll do this in one because they add together. The amount of skills you can get in Sunbreak is ridiculous. You can get so many. You can already get so many in Rise. I'm not a fan of this new gen. As many skills as you want. I want more focused builds. Maybe not as hard as the old gen. So, you know, maybe you can get like 4 or 5 skills in high rank, and in G rank 6 or 7. But I think the way we're going now with like 10 maxed out skills, 12 maxed out skills, I think that's too much. Strip it down a bit, not too much. All right, we don't deal with absolutes here. Some people say, I don't like this, get rid of it. I like that, get it. No, I don't do it like that. I try to see what works in what scenario, and in this scenario I think strip it down a bit, not too much, because it's cool to have skills. Like, who doesn't want a lot of skills? It feels great, but if you have too many skills, it can be really difficult to balance how things work in that strength, and it doesn't lead as much as urgency of I need this skill. If I want to slot in this defensive skill, I need to make sacrifices of offense. Right now you can be like, okay, I'm gonna order offensive field skills, and because I can start in some utility and defense, which I mean is cool. Finally they're seeing use, but the use isn't good use. It's not them using it because they feel like they have to. It's them using it because it's like, I've run out of stuff to slot in for damage, so I might as well get some defense. I'm not a fan of that. I am not a fan of that. I think the games should incentivize you to really think about what you want to build and build it. Build it. That's the way forward, 100%. Now I'm making this video, I've got so many more points coming up, but I don't want this video to get too long. The last one has to do with restocking back at camp. This one, it makes sense. Like, this is one of the things where it makes sense, but because it makes so much sense, the gameplay might not fit the game. What I mean by that is, let's say for example, and this is another thing that I remember hearing people talk about Injured Forest, and there was one thing where you know, the Aim Forest is a cool map in World. It looks good, and it makes sense in the sense that you want a map that's difficult to traverse because, you know, you're hunting, you're out in the wild. This makes sense. That this is what you'll see. But just because it makes sense doesn't mean it should be done, because in some situations it impacts the gameplay. It does add immersion and it makes sense, but just because it makes sense doesn't mean you should do it. All right, because if it impacts the gameplay in a negative way, such as restocking at camp, I mean, it makes sense. Why can't I restock a camp? Why can't I have a box where I have more of my items? But by doing that, you take away a lot of the urgency of quests, difficult quests, where you can get hit a lot. You can be like, okay, I'm just gonna go back and restock. Or okay, you know, I'm just gonna, oh, I forgot some items. Okay, I'm just gonna go back and restock. It's fine. I can just change my weapon. It's fine. I mean, changing weapon, I think actually helps the game, because in old games, maybe if you have multiple monster quests, you're more likely to just use raw or status, but this time, you know, it incentivizes more elements as in between fights you want to change. But when it comes to restocking, it's not good for the game at all, I don't think. Maybe for new players it's fine, but I don't think it's good, because it takes away a lot of what of the difficulty when it comes to restocking. You can just restock. You can get hit a lot, fighting a really hard monster, but that's fine. I can just restock. I don't run out of items. The amount of times in old gen that I've run out of items when fighting, it's quite a handful. Probably at least 10 times, maybe 12 times, 13, I don't know, 40, 50, I don't know. Quite a bit. In GU, in 3U, definitely, those games, I've run out of items and I can't restock. So I remember even seeing someone talk about this on Reworking's video, saying that GU did it the best, where they did the deployments of the items that you could request beforehand, the item requests. I think that was really good actually, because it wasn't too strong. You could get some items, some more items, which is great. I use that quite a lot on hard hunts, but you can't get too many items like you can right now. The thing is, this is one of the things that now they've added it into the game, they could take it out for gameplay enrichment, but because it's already there, people will want it regardless, and if it's removed, they will feel a certain way about it, and it's annoying, but it's just how it is. But for me personally, I would remove restocking. I don't think it's good for the game. So one of the things it didn't really change was the Wirefall. Now the Wirefall is a very strong mechanic. It's very strong. Being able to, it's a get out free gel. But is that how you say it? Get out gel free card basically. Well, you do use Y-Bug. The cooldown, I'm not sure the cooldown, but it's probably around like 15 seconds or so, 10 seconds. That's not too long in general. In Sunbreak, it definitely feels longer than Rise because monsters are faster and they're more likely to hit you. Like the issue with the monsters now, monsters are hitting us. They're hitting us a lot. In fact, I get hit quite a lot by monsters. It's not that they're not hitting us enough. It's just that there's ways for us to deal with the way they're hitting us, and that's going to be in the first 2 points. Like I was saying, Wirefall, being able to get out of some of these situations a bit easier than we used to, Some of the ways that we used to die in old gen was the fact that we're on the ground, it's slow to get up, and if you get up at the wrong time, we may get hit by a big move or a long lasting move, and there's nothing we can do about it. Yeah, a lot of that some of that may be bullshit, but a lot of it really incentivizes people to really think about how they're going to get up around moves, and it makes them feel endangered when they get down, when they get punished, Like, Wirefalls don't really reward people for getting punished, but they definitely don't allow the punishment to be as severe as it should be. My recommendation, one thing also, if you're gonna bash something, try to at least put some recommendations, because I think thinking about some improvements is also good. You don't always have to do it. It's not your job to fix something, but I think it's quite healthy in these type of situations and these conversations. So what I would do, it's either 2 things that you can do. I don't think Wirefall should be removed, but the reason I think it actually can add to an interesting dynamic of, do I want to get out of this move and not have a Y-Bug for a while? Let's say, for example, the Y-Bug takes 60 seconds to cool down, maybe 30 seconds to cool down, 45 seconds or so on. Now, if those are the situations, if you use a Wirefall, or if you want to use a Wirefall, you have to really think, if I use this Wirefall, I don't have a resource for a while. This is a problem. And that really makes people think of what they want to do at what time and when, because you might want to use your arts, the shotbind skills. It forces the user to really think of what they want to do at that situation. But even if that's not enough, another one I would say is make the Wirefall take 2 Y-Bugs. I think that would be good. Maybe on a 20-second cooldown. So the first one, I think the second one would be on 10 seconds. The first one would be 20 seconds, so you get back far. You get the first one fast, but the other one like 20 seconds or 30 seconds, whatever. But I think that will really make people think about, if you want to Wirefall this, you can't Wirefall again for a bit. So you better Wirefall something that's important. I think giving people the option to do something is fine, as long as the option isn't too regular and it's an important decision that they need to make. I think that can be pretty good. Now, there could be a situation where none of that works, and maybe we do have to remove it. But I'm more interested in trying those things first, rather than just removing something full stop, because I don't think that's useful or helpful for anyone. I don't think we learn in that situation. There's more to add to this point, which I'll come back later on another point in one of my bonus points. But that's pretty much it for Wirefall. I think definitely that's one of the biggest things that does make it difficult when it comes to balancing the game overall. Now, to add on to the point of skills is also counters, as being able to counter some skills, some hits, has led some more skills to be, you know, useless. Well, not as useless completely, but maybe not as good. You know, things like earplugs, tremor res, sometimes even wind resistance. Maybe not as much because it's kind of hard to counter a wind res skill and a tremor, but definitely earplugs. You know, guard, evasion. These skills in some, and even guard up, because some, if you evade a move and you're not use a shield, you can evade. You can evade unblockable skill, which doesn't make sense to me. You know, some of these skills don't get as much now because of all the counters. You know, the counters lead the game to a different dynamic. I'm not against counters. Well, myself as a Lance main, if I had my way, I would make it only Lance users have counters. Like, what? Why should I allow a sword shield to have a stronger counter than a Lance? That shouldn't be, right? Like, I don't think that's fair. But we live in a universe where people love counters, so I can accept them, but there needs to be some rectification. For example, some of these counters are too strong. Sword shield counter is too strong. You can use it way too often. The balance to come in to make it not as strong. Counter needs to be a really big decision where you think, I need to counter. If I do it correctly, I can get an advantage date from my success. It doesn't need to be, you know, I throw it out, you know, this is just part of my routine. I think that's more of the Lance thing. Lance counters are timed. Well, not they're preemptively timed to what the monster's going to do, and they get rewarded for that. But of course, being the Lance, they don't have, you know, the extra flashy stuff that some of these other weapons do. So while other weapons get counters, the Lance doesn't get a counter, and it does leave it in a weird place. Now, I would ultimately just rebalance all the counters in the game. Really think of how I want to utilize them, because sometimes they're just not utilized too well. They're too strong. They can come off cooldown too often, and there's not enough risk. There needs to be more risk when you try to go for these rewards. That's just a really good gaming philosophy that I've always loved. So definitely counters need some type of nerf. Further nerf, 100%. It's funny how I said I've like a couple extra minor ones when each minor one has been as long as some of my main points. So I don't think I have 3. I kind of have 6. We're going to finish on the 6th one. Now this one is about the post game, and it's about, I don't know if I'm going to make a video about this one by itself, but we'll talk about it here and I'll see how I feel in the future. This one is about afflicted monsters. Now, afflicted monsters are pretty cool. I like the concept. I like overall how it works. It definitely reminds me of Hyper, which is what I wanted. I want Hyper. I love Hyper. I think Hyper is the best extra, you know, post game monster Monster has. Well, in that game, it's not really post because you start finding them before the end of the game. Really, you start finding them in high rank. Now, I still think Hyper is the best in comparison. I think Tempered are the worst. Hyper is the best. I don't know where I would put Apex in this, to be honest, for you, but you know, Afflicted is somewhere in the middle. Now, Afflicted are good, but there's a couple issues with Afflicted. Now, I keep saying now, wow. Okay, some of the issues with Afflicted is the fact that after you've un-afflicted them, I guess hit them out of their afflicted state, they're exhausted, which I think is a really cool concept, but just because it's a cool concept doesn't mean it's good for the fight. Maybe it'll be fine if them being in the afflicted state was even more dangerous. So you have to use that brief window just to get as much damage as you can. Maybe if they're faster in the afflicted state as they are now and stronger, so people have to be more aware. But maybe if everything encompassed of what I said so far was added together, people would feel that way, so they wouldn't need to do that. I don't know. It's a possibility. I can't test it out because, well, you know, there's changes on in the game. But apart from that, I think that the risk and reward element of when you get hit by afflicted, you get the blood blight from Malzeno and those curio thingies, and the damage you can, and the healing you can do. I think the healing is too much. There's not much risk. It looks like there's risk, but as long as you're aggressive, it's fine. And in most scenarios, I've never really felt like I couldn't be aggressive. Maybe because I'm using a lance, that could also just be bias. Maybe I need to fight them more with weapons that don't have a shield. I haven't used much greatsword recently. I haven't used much switch axe recently. So maybe if I try some of those, or hammer even against afflicted, I'll have a different tone. on this scenario, as I feel more threatened when I got the blood blight on me. But as for now, I'm not too sure. In fact, I think the healing you get blood blight is too much. I think the healing you should get is probably like a quarter of what it is right now. You should get a quarter of the healing that you get right now. You still heal, not much, maybe half or a quarter. And when you get blood blight on you and you start to heal, instead of healing half of the normal heal, you should heal a quarter of the normal heal, really penalizing you for getting hit. Yes, you can get some reward if you're aggressive, but the punishment is still strong enough to mitigate and make you worry about that, you know, that bonus, that reward for hitting him while he's in this state. Once again, if you add everything else together, this point won't matter because things will be faster. There will be what's it called? Skills won't be as strong, and in that way, maybe this healing won't be as strong as well. Who knows? But I definitely think it's needed. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much the end of the video. It's such a long video for my first one back. Gone through quite a lot of points here. I mean, overall, Sunbreak's a fantastic game. It's definitely one of the best Monster Hunter expansions there's been. There's just some minor things that, well, not minor. Some of these are bigger than others that would be great to address for the next some further updates, or maybe in the next game. Because I don't want the next game to just go back to. It most likely will go back to no customizations with silk build, like, you know, silk skills or arts like in Gen. That's one thing I didn't like about World, is that they stripped it all the way. I do not like that. Why? I understand they got the mobile team and they got the main team, as people want to say, but I think they can still learn from each other, you know, like they don't have to be so separate, which apparently they're not. They're one team, but the ideas sometimes are too separate. I think sometimes it could be a similar. I think Rise Sunbreak is on the right path. It just needs refinement, just some refinement, as I've always said. And I would love to see the mechanics that we see now just refined and brought back in the future. So hopefully you see that. I mean, I'm not gonna speculate on that too much, but yeah, that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Let me know down below what you think. You know, comment. I want to see. I actually really want to see what you guys have to say. Like the video. You guys have been awesome. Catch you later. See ya.